March 2020, COVID-19 hits the world. Economy stops, unemployment explodes, panic everywhere. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell holds a press conference and says this: "We're not going to run out of ammunition. We print money digitally. We print money physically. We can create unlimited money." And they did exactly that. Between March and December 2020, the Federal Reserve printed $3 trillion, another $2 trillion in 2021, total $5 trillion, the most aggressive money printing in American history. Now, let me ask you a question. Where did that $5 trillion go? Did it go to you? Did $50,000 magically appear in your bank account? No. So where did it go? First, it went to banks. JPMorgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank. Then banks lent this money to billionaires at 0.5 to 2% interest. Billionaires bought stocks, real estate companies. Asset prices exploded. Between 2020 and 2024, S&P 500 rose 100%. Real estate rose 40%. Bitcoin went from $7,000 to $100,000. Billionaire wealth jumped from $5 trillion to $14 trillion. And your salary? It rose about 15%, but inflation hit 23%. Your real purchasing power actually dropped. You're working more, but buying less. Why? Because you are the last stop for money. Before you received it, billionaires already bought assets, prices inflated, inflation started, and by the time you got your paycheck, everything was already expensive. This is how the system transfers wealth upward. And it's about to get much worse, because in the next 26 minutes, I'm going to show you 3 converging crises that will reshape the global financial system between 2026 and 2027, the everything bubble collapse, the launch of CBDCs and programmable money, and silver's breakout from 50 years of price manipulation. These 3 events together represent the biggest reset since 1971, when Nixon ended the gold standard. This is not prophecy, this is pattern recognition, and the pattern is screaming. Let's start with the everything bubble. Most economic crises are sector-specific. The 2000 dot-com bubble only hit technology stocks. The 2008 mortgage crisis hit real estate, but other assets served as safe havens. In 1929, stocks crashed, but bonds and gold were safe. In 2008, real estate crashed, but bonds and gold rallied. Investors could move their wealth to protection. 2026 will be different, because every asset class is simultaneously in bubble territory. Stocks are bubbled, bonds are bubbled, real estate is bubbled, crypto is bubbled, even gold is elevated. Everything inflated by the same source. Cheap money and low interest rates for 15 years straight. Here are the numbers. S&P 500 price to earnings ratio is 25. Historical average is 16. That means stocks are 56% overvalued. The Buffett indicator measures stock market capitalization to GDP. It's at 200%. Historical average is 100%. Stocks are 100% overvalued by this metric. Real estate. Average home price is $420,000. Average household income is $70,000. That's a 6-to-1 ratio. In 1980, this ratio was 3-to-1. Homes are 100% overvalued. A teacher, a nurse, an engineer cannot afford to buy a house. The American dream is dead for the middle class. Bonds. U.S. national debt is $36 trillion. Annual interest payments reached $1 trillion in 2024. That's more than the defense budget. This is mathematically unsustainable. The Fed must either keep rates high and watch the government default, or print money and cause inflation. There's no good option. Crypto. Bitcoin at $100,000. Market cap, $2 trillion. But what real value does it create? It's pure speculation. When risk appetite disappears in a crisis, crypto will crash 70 to 90%. Again, derivatives. The derivative market is $600 trillion. That's 6 times global GDP. In 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed because of derivatives. Today, the derivative market is 3 times bigger than 2008. One counterparty failure can trigger a global chain reaction. Everything is connected. Everything depends on cheap money. What will trigger the collapse? Several candidates exist. The debt ceiling crisis. Every year Congress must raise the debt ceiling, or the U.S. defaults. Political polarization makes agreement harder each time. If Congress fails to raise the ceiling, U.S. bonds crash. Dominoes start falling. Regional bank failures, March 2023. Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Signature Bank collapsed. First Republic Bank collapsed. The Fed bailed them out. But if more regional banks fail in 2024-2025, the Fed cannot save them all. Bank runs accelerate, credit freezes, economy crashes. Japan crisis. Japan's national debt is 260% of GDP. Unsustainable. Bank of Japan keeps interest rates near zero to support the bond market. But if inflation forces them to raise rates, bond prices crash. Japanese crisis triggers global bond market panic. China real estate crisis. China's real estate sector is worth $55 trillion, 300% of China's GDP. Evergrande collapsed in 2023. Country Garden collapsed. The crisis continues spreading. If China's real estate market implodes, global real estate shocks. Geopolitical trigger, China invades Taiwan. Major war erupts in Middle East. Ukraine crisis escalates. Any of these can trigger market panic and everything crashes. Once the trigger fires, the domino sequence begins. Stage 1. Bond market crashes. U.S. cannot pay debt, or Japan crisis explodes. Bond prices collapse. Interest rates spike from 5% to 8 or 10%. Stage 2. Mortgage rates explode. As bond yields rise, mortgage rates follow. 30-year mortgages jump from 7% to 12%. Home buying stops. Demand collapses. Stage 3. Real estate loses value. Reduced demand means falling prices. 30 to 50% declines. Bigger than 2008, households go underwater. Foreclosure tsunami. Stage 4. Banks in trouble. Banks suffer massive losses on mortgage portfolios. Reserves evaporate. Some banks fail. Depositors panic. Bank runs begin. Stage 5. Stock market crashes. Banks fail. Credit stops. Companies cannot get financing. Earnings collapse. Stock prices crash 50 to 70%. S&P 500 from 6,000 to 2,000. Stage 6. Crypto crashes. Risk appetite zeroes out. Investors flee speculation. Bitcoin and altcoins drop 80 to 90%. $10,000 Bitcoin or lower. Stage 7. Unemployment explodes. Companies go bankrupt. Mass layoffs. Unemployment hits 15 to 20%. Consumer spending collapses. Economy enters deep recession. Stage 8. Deflationary spiral or hyperinflation. Two possible outcomes. If Fed does nothing, deflation. Prices fall, but nobody has money. Demand crashes. Prices fall further. Deflationary death spiral like 1930s. If Fed intervenes with massive money printing, hyperinflation. Money becomes worthless. Inflation hits 20 to 50%. Savings evaporate. Either scenario destroys the middle class, and there's no safe haven this time. In 1929, you could hide in bonds and gold. In 2008, you could hide in bonds and gold. In 2026, everything crashes together because everything is bubbled together. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell faces checkmate. He has two options, and both end in disaster. Option 1, keep rates high. Result, deflation, debt default, economic depression. Option 2, print money. Result, hyperinflation, dollar devaluation, reserve currency status loss. Ray Dalio's analysis: the Fed cannot sustain debt and control inflation simultaneously. They must choose one, and they will choose debt, meaning they will print money. Inflation is coming, but printing money has a consequence: dollar reserve status loss. The dollar became the world reserve currency in 1944 at Bretton Woods. Countries accumulated dollars. Global trade happened in dollars. America enjoyed unlimited borrowing privilege because of this. But since 1971, when Nixon ended the gold standard, the dollar became pure fiat. The Fed printed $8 trillion since then. Dollar supply exploded. Value dropped. Now alternatives are emerging. 2023, BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China. South Africa began working on a gold-backed currency. Goal, escape dollar hegemony. Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar agreement. Now Saudi can sell oil for yuan, euros, or other currencies. The petrodollar system is dying. Central banks are buying gold at record pace. 2023 saw 1,000 tons of gold purchases, highest in 50 years. Countries are dumping dollar reserves and buying gold. China, Russia, India, Turkey, all doing this. Ray Dalio's projection: within 10 to 20 years, the dollar will lose reserve status. It will drop from 58% of global reserves to 30%. Alternative currencies will rise. America will no longer have unlimited borrowing power. Interest rates must rise. Debt crisis becomes inevitable. History shows every empire that lost reserve currency collapsed. Rome's denarius was world money until AD 250, when silver content dropped from 95% to 5%. Inflation exploded. Empire collapsed by 476. British sterling was reserve currency in the 1800s. But World War I and II bankrupted Britain. In 1944, dollar replaced sterling. Britain lost empire status. In 1976, Britain needed IMF bailout. Empire finished. America 1944 to present. Dollar reserve currency for 80 years. But debt hit 36 trillion. Fed printed 8 trillion. BRICS building alternatives. Timeline to 2026 to 2040, dollar could lose status. Same pattern as Rome and Britain. Excessive debt, money printing, devaluation, status loss, collapse. Now let's talk about what governments plan to do after the everything bubble collapses. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. This is not speculation. This is official policy. Over 100 countries are developing or testing CBDCs right now. China already launched digital yuan with 260 million users. European Central Bank testing digital euro. Federal Reserve researching digital dollar. What are CBDCs? They are not like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is decentralized. No central authority controls it. CBDCs are the opposite. They are fully controlled by central banks, every transaction monitored, every wallet programmable. Every dollar has an expiration date if they want. Here's how it works. Government deposits $1,000 in your CBDC wallet, but they program restrictions. You can only spend this money on food. You cannot spend on alcohol or cigarettes. The money expires in 30 days, forcing you to spend, not save. You try to buy something the government dislikes, and transaction gets rejected. Welcome to programmable money. China's social credit system is the preview. Make wrong comment, your credit score drops, you cannot board planes. Drive too fast, your score drops, your children cannot attend good schools. Now imagine this system applied to money through CBDCs. Say something government dislikes and your wallet freezes. Attend wrong protest and you cannot buy food. Support wrong political candidate and you cannot access your savings. This is not conspiracy theory. This is stated policy. IMF published papers on CBDCs saying they allow better monitoring of citizen spending and better enforcement of government policy. Better enforcement means control. Your money becomes permission-based. You need government approval to spend your own money. Why are governments pushing this? 3 reasons. First, control. Cash is anonymous. You can spend cash without government tracking. CBDCs eliminate privacy. Every transaction recorded forever. Second, negative interest rates. With cash, you can withdraw and store money to avoid negative rates. With CBDCs, government can directly deduct money from your account. Negative 10% interest means 10% of your savings vanishes annually. Third, direct taxation and confiscation. Government can instantly tax or confiscate wealth. No court needed. Algorithm decides. The everything bubble collapse will be the excuse to implement CBDCs. After the crisis, governments will say cash and old banking failed. We need a new system. CBDCs will be mandatory. Your choice. Join the CBDC system or exist outside the financial system entirely. No bank account, no credit card, no mortgage, nothing. Financial exile. This is digital feudalism. In medieval times, if you did not own land, you were not free. In the future, if you do not own your money, if you cannot transact without central bank permission, you will not be free. This is the end of financial sovereignty, and it's coming in 2026 to 2030. But there's a problem for this plan: physical reality. Governments can manipulate digital numbers forever. They can print trillions digitally. They can create CBDCs out of nothing. But they cannot create physical commodities. And this is where silver enters the story. Silver is not just a precious metal. Silver is the most critical industrial metal in modern technology. Your smartphone has 0.35 grams of silver. An electric vehicle has 25 to 50 grams. A solar panel needs 20 grams. 5G towers need silver. Missiles need silver. Medical devices need silver. The green energy revolution cannot happen without silver. Here's the problem. Annual silver demand is 1.2 billion ounces. Mining supply is only 850 million ounces. The gap of 350 million ounces gets filled by recycling and old stockpiles. But over 60% of silver is consumed in industrial applications and cannot be recycled, meaning the world consumes more silver every year and the physical deficit is growing. Yet, silver's price has been suppressed for 50 years. In 1980, silver hit $50 per ounce. In 2024, silver is only $32. In 44 years, silver did not keep pace with inflation. Gold went from $600 to $2,700, 4 times increase. Silver should be at $200 per ounce to match gold's ratio, but it's at 32. Why? Price manipulation. Large banks like JPMorgan created an illusion of infinite supply. They sell hundreds of paper contracts for every 1 physical ounce. COMEX commodity. Exchange in New York trades billions of ounces on paper, but only has 100 million ounces in physical inventory. 99% of silver contracts settle in cash without physical delivery. This creates artificial supply on paper, but cracks are appearing. November to December 2024, COMEX vaults lost 37.6 million ounces of silver in just 47 days. That's over 20% of total inventories. Physical silver is vanishing from the system. Industrial users are taking delivery. Investors are taking delivery. The paper game is ending. More critical, China announced on January 1st, 2026, licensing restrictions on silver exports. China produces 17% of global silver and is also the largest consumer. If China restricts exports, Western supply chains for solar panels, 5G infrastructure, and electric vehicles hit a physical wall. What happens when paper price disconnects from physical reality? When paper contracts say silver is $30, but physical silver is unavailable at any price? The paper market collapses. Physical price explodes. This is silver's final revenge against 50 years of manipulation. History shows this pattern. In 2020, Reddit's Wall Street silver community briefly drove silver from $12 to $30. Banks used derivative markets to smash the price back down. But this time is different. Physical supply is actually depleting, and China is changing the rules. When silver breaks out, it will expose the entire system. Technology stocks depend on cheap silver for production. If silver goes to $100 or $200 per ounce, tech companies face supply shortages and margin compression. Green energy transition becomes unaffordable. The digital economy built on manipulated commodity prices faces physical reality. This is the convergence. The everything bubble collapses. Governments launch CBDCs for control. But physical silver shortage exposes that digital promises mean nothing without physical resources. You cannot eat digital dollars. You cannot power a city with CBDC algorithms. You cannot build solar panels with printed money. Physical reality always wins. So what do? How do you protect yourself when everything crashes, CBDCs launch, and physical assets become the only real wealth? Strategy 1. Physical precious metals. Gold and silver, not ETFs, not paper certificates. Physical metal you hold in your possession. 10 to 20% of your portfolio. When CBDCs launch and paper assets collapse, physical metal will be the only wealth outside government control. Yes, governments could try to confiscate like 1933, but gold confiscation in 1933 failed. Most people hid their gold. Same will happen with silver. Strategy 2, productive real assets, land, farmland, water rights. These produce real value. During crisis, food and water are worth more than paper money. Bill Gates is buying farmland. You should too, if possible. Even small plots matter. During Weimar hyperinflation, people with gardens survived. People with paper money starved. Strategy 3, avoid debt or use it strategically. If deflation comes, debt becomes harder to pay. Reduce debt. But if hyperinflation comes, debt gets inflated away. If you have fixed rate mortgage at 3% and inflation hits 20%, your debt becomes nearly free. Strategy depends on which scenario unfolds. Strategy 4, skills investment. Crisis times value skills, engineering, medicine, agriculture, trades. Develop skills. If you lose your job, skills save you. Paper credentials mean nothing if the institution that granted them collapses. Skills are portable wealth. Strategy 5, geographic diversification. Don't depend on one country. Hold assets abroad if possible. Dual citizenship. When crisis hits one nation, you can move. History shows people who stayed in Weimar Germany or Soviet Union suffered. People who left survived. Strategy 6, community. During crisis, isolation means vulnerability. Strong family, friend, neighbor relationships matter. Together, you are stronger. Barter networks, mutual aid. These things kept people alive during Great Depression and every crisis before. But most important strategy, awareness. Most people don't know the everything bubble exists. Most people don't know CBDCs are coming. Most people don't know silver is manipulated. You now know. Knowledge is advantage. Act on it. The convergence is coming. Everything bubble collapses. CBDCs launch. Silver breaks out. These three events together represent the biggest financial reset since 1971. Or perhaps since 1929, or perhaps since Rome. This is not about fear. This is about preparation. In 1929, people who understood the pattern preserved wealth. In 2008, people who understood the pattern made fortunes. In 2026, people who understand the pattern will not just survive, they will thrive. Ray Dalio says it best. Crisis is when wealth transfers fastest. The prepared win, the unprepared lose. Are you prepared? Everything bubble is real. CBDC control is coming. Silver manipulation is ending. The three crises converge in 2026 to 2027. Your move. Physical or digital? Freedom or control? Reality or illusion? Next video will show you the 7-stage collapse pattern that destroyed every empire in history. Rome went through it. Britain went through it. Soviet Union went through it. And America is at stage 5 right now. Pattern recognition is prophecy. And the pattern is clear. Subscribe to Dark Money Historian. Comment below. Are you buying physical silver? Are you worried about CBDCs? What's your 2026 strategy? Because the answers are not in the future. They are hidden in the past. And right now, history is rhyming.